Hey everyone, this is a video that's pretty rare. I often don't get this in depth and disclose how I'm feeling, but this is one of those times where I think this might be important and also something to get off my chest. So the story starts a long time ago. Well, maybe just not that long ago, maybe a while back, say in the year 2019, when the Aladdin Broadway musical hit the shores of Singapore. And Singapore is my home and it's my country. And I was very excited and very much looking forward to doing anything I could to make some good noise about this musical on my social media, on my YouTube channel, maybe get some interviews. And of course, welcome my friends, three of whom were in the show. Two were in the show and then one joined. And I was just so happy to get that news halfway through. I couldn't have been more excited. And I was so proud. So overall, I have to say right off the bat, this was an amazing experience. I appreciate so much of what happened till today. What I'm getting into was the little wet blanket that was thrown into the mix that left, a very unpleasant lingering effect to this day. And you may say, oh, well, it's enough time has passed, let bygones be bygones. But, it's true. But before I give it a rest, I do feel I have to share this tale and put it out here on social media. If you know me personally, you would know that I always afford respect to everyone I meet as much as possible. And at the same time, I ensure that disrespectful behavior is called out if I'm aware of it happening to others, because I believe there's no greater sin than inaction. Well, this time it's happened to me and I've kept quiet long enough. It's not the end of the world, of course. My life is just fine right now and there are bigger wrongs to right out there for sure. But I believe it's about setting things right from the start in the smallest of places before they grow, out of balance, right? So are you ready for the story? Okay, so Base Entertainment is a company that has branches in Asia and in Singapore that are responsible for bringing in a lot of international titles, like musicals and concerts. And that's a great thing. It's a really great thing. Not all of us get to travel to the West End or Broadway to catch these shows, right? So in early 2019, I get news about Aladdin making its way to Singapore through Base Entertainment. So I get in touch with somebody that I know who's working there who connects me to a Miss Shirinderjit, right? The PR or APR manager of the company. So I asked her via email about interviews that I can possibly do, or also possibly attending opening night. And this is all happening in March 2019. So it's really early before the show comes in July. So the opening night's on 25th of July. And then on the 6th of June, and this is something that I'm not supposed to be aware of, right? And also they don't think I know this. But on the 6th of June, Miss Shirinderjit herself sends out to many influencers, and they extend invites out for them to interview the cast, right? So this has gone out on the 6th of June to, I'm possibly thinking, many influencers to invite them to come interview or maybe even watch the show, all right? And this is what I'm aware of. So you can see the email here. And then 6 days later, on the 12th of June, I get a personal invite and I get a confirmation to the media call to interview the actors, right? So they're allocated time slots for each interviewer. And I'm also told I had an invite to the show, the opening show the following day. So yippee, everything is great. Everything is awesome. And I'm all set for the show. And then we get to the 5th of July. I am told via email that they have received overwhelming requests for Aladdin and they are not able to accommodate my interview request. They don't mention about my invite to the opening of the show. So I ask, but I'm told that has also been revoked. Now let's go back to the email that was sent to my influencer friend. There were several things about it that made me feel that Base Entertainment, or basically Miss Shirinderjit, was being a bit shady. Well, let me explain. First, I felt it lacked sincerity and specificity because it was not addressed to my friend's name. It just says hi. And on top of that, they were invited to interview the cast. And I know my friend is not an interviewer, right? They are a singer-songwriter. So Base Entertainment, or should I say Miss Shirinderjit, had technically sort of wasted an invite targeting the wrong influencer to market their show, so to speak, right? So someone is not doing their job properly. And if you look at the deadline for this particular invite to the influencers, it was for 21st of June. My invite was confirmed on the 12th of June, right? So they sent out this invite on the 6th of June, confirmed my invite on the 12th of June, and the deadline on the 21st of June came, and they probably received too many confirmations by that point from their influencer invites, and then decided to retract my invitation. Now, to me, that's just really bad management, because even if it's your party and you can invite anyone and whoever you want, retracting an invite is just in poor taste, in my opinion. All right. But nonetheless, I politely accepted the fact, and I mentioned that I will still continue to interview my friends from the show, but not through them, that I can organize this by myself. Okay, so this is where more trouble starts. In a phone call, Miss Shirin tells me that the marketing matters for the show has to go through Base Entertainment. And then she seems to imply that the final say comes from Disney, so that she would check with them. And then she does, supposedly, and then comes back to me and says that she was in touch with them and that I do not now have the clearance to interview the cast. I'll tell you why I think this is possibly another shady move. It's because, to my knowledge, Disney does not control their musical theater cast on interviews. Prior to this experience, I had personally interviewed at least 3 actors who played leading or feature roles in Disney musicals on Broadway, right? Namely Lion King, Aladdin, and Frozen. And you can actually catch these interviews in the video description provided below. There are links. I had no issues, no problems with that. Nothing was flagged. So I can't help assume that Base Entertainment, or perhaps wants credit and control over IP that isn't theirs. I don't know. Or that Miss Shirinderjit simply wants to make things difficult for me, and for me, just because I had called her out on poor management of the invites. I'm not sure. But if you refer to this email, I was still very polite and respectful in addressing the situation to her. And that's not all, okay? Because there was even more unpleasantness that happened at the opening night, which I thankfully got to go to because I received VIP tickets, including an invite to the after party because of other connections that I have. And you can check that video of the experience in the link also provided in the video description below. But then, so the after party is even more exclusive, of course, because you're not just being invited to the opening night, but also to the after party. So there's even fewer people who can attend that. And I'm not trying to show off here. I'm saying this because I have a point to make. And that is, while I was at the show and during intermission, I was trying to take pictures against a beautiful backdrop set up by them and a prop magic lamp. So I was trying to take pictures with this backdrop and to hold the magic lamp. But I was told, and this lamp was sort of like taken away from me as I was trying to do it by another guy, that this lamp and picture taking was only reserved for celebrities. Quite rude, right? I mean, I was shooed away basically. And as I walked away, I looked at these bunch of influencers. I mean, I had no idea who they were, but kudos to them. They're recognized by Base Entertainment as celebrities. They were happily preening and posing for their pictures with the lamp. I mean, sure, we can all take turns. I wasn't jealous. I was more miffed. I didn't see these highly valued celebrities at the after party though, right? So, but I was just more miffed that I was not given that chance. Also, it was not that crowded. Also, what's with the label of celebrity? Right. The bottom line is do you value your guests or not? And do you even know who everyone is? I mean, you can't keep track. I don't expect you to keep track because there are tons of people in the industry and it's changing and all that. So the basic thing you can do is at least to just be polite to everyone, right? But that wasn't the case. Well, I don't proclaim to be a celebrity, right? I mean, but the fact is that when I look at the post-show pictures, and to my shock, I see that many of my peers in the industry whom I have worked with in various shows over my 20 years in theater, who they have taken pictures with a lamp, and I realized that I have not been allowed that. I'm just really hurt by it. It's a picture with a silly lamp, but you have no idea like what Aladdin means to me and how happy I was to be there, and to be rejected on so many levels. I cleared my schedule to be in Seattle the first time Aladdin showed. I flew from Singapore to Seattle. I booked a hotel. I paid for 2 tickets to see the show. I saw it twice. And this is how much I love Aladdin. And I today it's in Singapore, or back then, and I have 3 friends in the show. I couldn't have been more happy. I couldn't have been more proud. And I spent my whole life studying musical theater. It was like a combination of so many wonderful things. And there I was, with a bad taste in my mouth, where my invitation was revoked, but I was still there trying to have a good time, and being denied a picture because I was not considered a celebrity amongst my peers. Of course, it really hurt. And I have students that I teach that audition for base entertainment shows and perform in base entertainment shows. Sure, the students benefit, but it's a two-way street, right? When people don't know how to nurture these relationships kindly and respectfully, it really hurts me a lot. It's disappointing. So the worst part was that after I shared this in an email with Miss Shirinderjit, she ignored it. There was no response. She didn't acknowledge how I was feeling. Nothing. Okay, so that which makes me question: is base entertainment actually a good host? Is she actually being a good host? On a more macroscopic level, theater is meant for everyone, and theater, in Singapore can be very, very expensive or even elitist and exclusive. It's because the problem is actually because venue rentals for spaces are one of the most, if not the highest in the world. So ticket prices, of course, cost a lot. And unlike Broadway, where there are lottery tickets as well, and rush tickets to make it affordable to everyone. Right. So base entertainment, don't misunderstand me. I am not asking for free tickets. I'm not trying to be petty here. I can gladly pay for my tickets. In fact, I often still don't have to pay for them, because many times the productions you bring in, I have friends in them who gladly and willingly give me tickets. And that, I like to think that's a reflection of who I am, someone people respect and appreciate. Anyway, I challenge you to be better hosts, though. And also, while you bring in international shows, which gives variety, and it's a really, really good thing, don't forget that it also competes with our local theater productions. And if you can find a way to make it all less elitist, in other words, expensive, but also in the way that you have snubbed people like me, perhaps people don't have to choose so much between local and international shows, and they can watch both. All right, so just something to think about. Not here to cause trouble, being here to just trying to share my thoughts, and just make sure that we move forward together. All right, thanks for hearing me out. Bye.